We welcome you all to this first Sunday of Advent at the Orlando Citadel Core. Our theme this year is A Wise Journey, and we have the privilege of speaking to four individuals and couples who have been through a wise journey in their life. Wise people still follow Jesus. And in each segment, we'll look at a subtitle. The title for this first Sunday of Advent is First Steps in the Journey. And we are privileged to have Bandmaster Bill Himes with us today. His has been a wonderful, unusual journey. Bandmaster Himes is known around the Salvation Army world. For 38 years, he was the bandmaster of the Chicago Staff Band. He has traveled extensively, written extensively, over 800 musical items. And it's our privilege to have Bandmaster Himes with us. As many of you may know, he was married to his wonderful wife, Wendy, that many have known over the years. For about 24 years, they were married. And now he is married again with a wonderful lady, Linda Bandy, from Dearborn Heights Corps, who we knew many years ago when she was the YPSM there. She has a wonderful story together also. And we look at life and we can never figure out really why things happen. We will know on the other side of glory why things happen, but everything is in God's hands. Now, Bandmaster Bill has had a full life of following God, following His will. And it's almost in two segments now with two different partners that God has provided. So, Bandmaster Himes, we are so pleased that you're with us today. And we'd like you to reflect, first of all, on your life, and then that unexpected tragedy in losing Wendy so many years ago, how that affected your life, and then how the transfer into a new journey. What are the first steps in a new journey? God bless you, Bandmaster Bill. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you. It's my privilege to be with you. You know, as you were just setting that up, Commissioner, I thought of a line from Herbert Booth's great song, Christ is All, where he says, "And where I cannot see, I'll trust." And that was the song that I came to grips with early in my life. Around the age of 19, I actually wrote a euphonium solo on that theme, but my emphasis there was on two words, my Christ is all in all. And as a 19-year-old, that was the revelation to me, that the God of the universe could be personal to me. And that's what I wanted to emphasize. But then later on in life, as you finish up your schooling and romance strikes and you find the girl of your dreams, and Wendy and I met, and because she lived in Minnesota and I lived in Michigan, I was at the University of Michigan. We were quite a ways away. We got to date once a month. And after a while, my proposal was so romantic. I said, "Do you realize that if we got married, I could save $600 a year in car insurance, telephone bills, and all kinds of things?" And so we were married I was 22 and she was 19. And then I went to school to finish up my master's degree. But back then, the emphasis was my Christ is all in all, that He was mine. And I met this wonderful girl, and we were married for 23 years. And somewhere down the line, when her first cancer diagnoses came in, 7 years before her passing, and everything seemed so routine. And we're gonna excise this lump, and you're gonna have radiation. Everything's gonna be fine. And then 4.5 years later, to have that disease reoccur. But my wife was so courageous through all of that, in the sense that she was a planner and she faced things straight on. And while she was in the hospital for a bone marrow transplant, she asked me for the songbook. And I thought, well, why do you want that? But I brought it up to the hospital, and she gave it back to me after a couple of days along with an envelope. She said, just file that away. Probably won't need it for anything, but if anything happens to me, then you can open the envelope. And it was a couple of years later when we got what I'd call the fatal diagnosis, where they say, we've done everything we can. There's nothing else we can do, and the cancer is back. So it's just a matter of time. That she said, maybe it's time to open that envelope now. And what I realized she had done is while she was in the hospital, she'd planned her funeral, just in case. This is a woman who stared life straight in the eye and said, we can deal with whatever you're going to throw at us. And where we cannot see, we'll trust. And there were all her plans laid out. She wanted a joyful homegoing. She wanted us to sing Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee. She wanted the songsters to sing Goodbye, World, Goodbye. And all those things came to pass. But what I was going to say is that her courage in facing whatever came in life was an inspiration to us all. And of course, we were married 23 years. So now I have 23 years of a look back. And when you can look back, the longer you look back, the more you see God in the details. And then more affirms you to the future. It's like, if God has been with me then, he'll be with me now and in the future. I don't think God sends these things our way. I think life is what it is. Jesus said, the rain fall on the good and the bad alike. Life is what it is. The difference is, as Christians of faith, is we have a God who gets us through it. And even my wife, as she was facing death, he got her through it. She faced it with great courage and resolve and even joy. And she said, I will not curse God. I will thank him for every day he gives me, because when you think of it, all of us only have today for sure. And that's what I learned for her. Make the most of each day.
What about your transition then into a new life with a new wonderful woman of God? And what the last half isn't over yet, but what the second half of your life, what about those first steps? How did God strengthen you on your first steps in the second journey, or the second part of your life?
Well, again, I have to give Wendy a lot of credit, and because I came to realize that if there is any blessing in a terminal illness, it is that you have time. You have time to face things that are coming. And because Wendy was one of such great courage, she was not afraid to speak of the future. And we had no unfinished business between us. Sometimes you hear of people who someone was killed suddenly in a car crash on the interstate, and the spouse is saying, oh, if only I had ever told her this, or I never really expressed this the way I wanted to, or, those kinds of regrets. If there's a blessing at all in what we faced together, was at least that we knew life was not going to be as long as we thought, and therefore there should be no unfinished business between us. All that to say is that we even talked about remarriage, because I said to Wendy, I've had a great marriage. We've had a great life together. I can't imagine myself alone for the rest of my life. And she said, no, I don't expect you to be alone. But then she said, just remember these 3 things. 1, take your time. 2, choose wisely. And 3, make sure whoever it is loves our children.
Wow.
wow, what insight, you know. I mean, that's how she was. And I followed her advice. I had no desire to start dating and do all those things. You know, I'm a single parent. I've got a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old home. I still have responsibilities as the church hall music secretary and staff bandmaster, and I was the corps sergeant major, and you know, all those things. But all those priorities change when you're the single parent. And but I took her advice. You know, I was so busy just dealing with life and making sure my kids were taken care of and my responsibilities fulfilled, that I really wasn't looking to remarry. But when Linda came into my life, that was a real affirmation, and she loved our children. She was my daughter's counselor at Central Bible and Leadership Institute for several years, and when it got serious, and I was saying to the kids, you know, I think this could get serious for Linda and I. How do you feel about that? And my son Eric, who was maybe 16 at the time, said, well, you know, Dad, a year ago at CBLI, I went up to Linda and said, why won't you marry my dad? You know, so it was very much a God thing. That story in itself is pretty unusual and dynamic, but there's been an absolute certainty that God put her in my life because where I couldn't see, I trusted. And God came through in a wonderful way. And of course, the other thing too is that Wendy was so legendary because she was known. Anytime they saw me, they saw her. So it was Wendy and Bill and Wendy, and that was the picture. So now they're seeing a different picture. They're seeing Bill and who? Bill and Linda, you know, and they're trying to adjust to that. And they didn't really know her very well. But once they heard her speak, and she was a public speaker as well. But I remember one staff band wife who all she knew was Wendy, and we were at some conference together where Linda was speaking, and she came up to me afterward. This band spouse threw her arms around me and said, "You, sir, are twice blessed."
Beautiful.
Because she realized that Linda was my partner now, and a very special. I'm twice blessed. You know, I have two women in my life who were self-sufficient. They didn't need me for anything, you know. And you know, the thing is that when I took the kids to counseling after Wendy died, you're talking about next steps. I thought we need to talk this through with someone, and I realized we went to a Christian psychologist, and I realized we were looking in a mirror, because as we were speaking to her, my kids could see me in her mirror. When they spoke to her, I could see their reactions through this counselor. You know, she acted like a mirror across the room. And she asked me, she said, could you describe your relationship with Wendy? And I said, well, I've got to tell you, I didn't need Wendy. And I paused, and she looked at me, and I said, and Wendy didn't need me.
Yes. We
wanted each other. And she said, you know, that's the best of all relationships.
Amen. Oh,
and that's the way I've been twice blessed that way. I knew that if I died tomorrow, Linda could handle it. Life would go on. She could manage, you know, she's a self-starter. And, but we want each other, and that's because God intended it to be.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You know, your chorus, All That I Am, is sung by Salvationists around the world. I thought about it. I have sung your chorus in an Army meeting in every continent in the world except Antarctica. And I even think that probably there's been people in one of those stations down there that has sung it. It's a chorus that has struck our hearts. Now, you are a great Salvation Army musician, personality. You're an Order of the Founder. General Gowans gave you that recognition in 2020 years ago. But the one thing that stands out, I think that chorus defines your heart, and it vibrates with the with our hearts. You know, all that I am, especially that part that says, take all my dreams. And we don't say break it. Take all my dreams, Lord, and bend them to your will. That epitomizes your life. Can you tell us a little bit about how the chorus came about?
Sure. Well, like so many songs and choruses, I'm a student of our songbook. I love to read the stories behind it and the companion to the songbook. And when you read how some of those wonderful songs were written, it seems so joyful. You realize they were written out of the crucible of life, out of the crucible of pain, and that out of that challenge, you know, I think of George Matheson, "Oh, love that will not let me go." You know, this is a man who was blind and was jilted by his fiancée because she wasn't confident she could live with a visually impaired person the rest of her life. And he writes these words, "Oh, love that will not let me go. Oh, joy that seekest me through pain." You know, these songs are born out of the reality of life. It's not some jingle writer on Madison Avenue thinking, you know, how can I sell a hamburger? I'll come up with this lilting little tune. No, the songs we have and the hymns of faith through history have often come out of adversity. And so it is with all that I am. At that time of my life, Wendy was now in the bone marrow transplant unit of Rush Presbyterian Hospital in Chicago, which was at the forefront of this kind of chemotherapy that had been very successful on other things, lymphoma, leukemia, and they thought, well, we're going to try this with breast cancer. We're going to see if that works. And it's a ravaging treatment where you're in for 1 full month and you have no immunities. And they've harvested your stem cells and your all that stuff. And now that you have zero, they're putting them back into you so that they can regenerate and now fight off this chemotherapy, which hopefully has killed the cancer. Okay, that's month number 1. And then you're off for a month, and then you go back for the second month. And that's the hardest month because now you know what you're going to go through. And that coincided with our Central Music Institute, which is in August, and I'm in charge of it. And fortunately, it was just an hour and 15 minutes north of this hospital, just across the border in Wisconsin at Camp Wonderland. But every day I'd get up in the morning and make sure the classes were going, everything's going okay. I would drive into Chicago, spend the day with my wife at her bedside, and then I would leave to get back to camp in time for either just after supper and the start of the evening program and that kind of thing. So those are my days during this encampment. But it was those drives in between that I had time to think about what my wife was enduring and what were we facing and where was God and these details. And I just wanted I had a tune in my head that had come a few days before, and it was just there, a very intuitive, kind of simple kind of melody. But I'm thinking, what do I have to say to God about this when things go wrong, when things are tough, when it's not, sunshine and rainbows all the time? And words come very slowly to me when I'm writing lyrics. Notes come much quicker. But that night I went to bed. It was a Saturday night. And at 5 o'clock Sunday morning, I woke up with all the words to that chorus fully formed in my head. And I very quickly scratched them down on a piece of manuscript paper, because the first Sunday of CMI, I'm the preacher. The second Sunday, the territorial leaders come in. This is how we did it. So I was preaching that Sunday, and I gave this hen scratch of a manuscript to the piano player and said, "Ken, I'm going to teach them a new chorus today, so maybe you can help me out here." And so I just taught them this chorus by rote, and it was as though they knew it. You know, it was just so intuitive to them. They just took it to their hearts. And by the next Sunday, I had actually typed it out and laid out the proper musical symbols, calligraphy for that. It was all well laid out. And we gave everyone in the audience, several hundred people, a copy of that chorus, just to sing in the meeting. And normally after a meeting, we spend a lot of time going around the chapel picking up paper, because that's before the days of video screens and stuff. So everything was on paper and people would just leave it there. But that Sunday, there was no paper. Everyone took that chorus with them. And from there, it just went all over the world. And it's just so much like the Lord taking the bread and blessing it and multiplying it. It's nothing I could do. It's nothing I could plan. It's nothing I could promote. There's no me in the details. God just took that and it went all over the world very, very quickly. And then I was able to, within the next month or so, write the verses, 2 very simple verses to accompany it. And the rest is history, as they say.
My, what a beautiful story. What an inspiring story. God working through you to his people around the world. This is the first interview I've done that I actually got goosebumps just listening to your story of how all that I am came to be. God bless you, Bandmaster Bill. God bless Linda. We pray for you and your continued ministry. There's a long way ahead, and God is going to bless and continue to use you to his honor and his glory. Merry Christmas.
God
Thank
bless.
you. Where we cannot see, we'll trust.
Amen.